Thanks for tuning into the Urban Scope podcast. I have a controversial topic today, a topic that I've seen on a discussion with Vlad TV talking to Ari Spears. Now, they were talking about acting and they was talking about two actors that are legendary in the acting community. And these two actors are Denzel Washington and Samuel L. Jackson. Now, they're debating who was the better actor. But of course, that's such a vague question, right? Because acting, especially, you have to be pretty much be an actor to know what the best actor is. But I'm basing on the discussion on who has the more impact, because that's what I usually do when I talk about the better one. So impact in acting, I would consider the variables or the elements or the criteria is who provokes the most emotion, who's played the more influential roles, who has the better catalog in that regards. Because they both done, tons of movies. Samuel more, of course, than Denzel, because I think Samuel started around the same time or a little bit earlier. But for nevertheless, Samuel has a ton of more movies. But these both are great actors on the to ever grace a TV screen, um, with great filmographies and aura. But who is who had the more impact? Who had the better catalog and discography that evoked the most emotion and had the better roles? Now, this is a vague question, but I'll define it from their dynamic or captivating performances, which I'll get into. But as I talked about before, Samuel L. Jackson is a more active actor because he's done over 130, over 150 movies, I believe. While Denzel has, I believe, 50 to 60 movies that he's done. It's kind of hard to tell from all of the, there's not a lack. There's a lack of uh, clarity on the movies and things like that. But there's probably like a 70 movie gap between Denzel and Samuel. And Samuel, of course, has the lead in that. But I'm still going to go with Denzel in this debate just because of the sheer fact of I believe he's the better actor and played the better roles and had the more impact and more impactful movies. So just to run down Denzel's great movies: Malcolm X, which he won an Oscar for. John Q, which was definitely Oscar worthy. Well, sorry, take that back. Malcolm X, he didn't win an Oscar for. I think he didn't win one for that. John Q, Training Day, which he did win an Oscar for, but those previous two movies that were Oscar worthy, of course. Remember the Titans, which is one of my favorite movies of his. Flight, which is an underrated movie of his, where he plays the pilot that goes through the substance use issues. Great movie if you haven't seen that one. And American Gangster. But all of these movies he was the lead in. But I can't say the same for Samuel Jackson. He played a lot of movies being a secondary role and playing co-starring or just playing a minor character compared to the major characters. But Denzel in his biggest films, he's the main guy. He's the guy the movie's centered around. He has the most scenes. He's the draw. He's on the front of the movie poster. We can't say that the same for Samuel L. Jackson because Samuel, he does a lot of roles, and I think he takes a lot of roles just out of the love of the art. But I think Denzel is very selective, and he's very, very cautious with the movies that he takes, whether it be uh, movies or whether it be theater, because he does Broadway too. So he does a lot of different things as well. So his acting is very diverse. And then Samuel, when you think about his biggest movies that we know him for, he's either a secondary character or a minor character or a co-star. So movies like Django, when he plays Steven, that was one of his greatest roles to date. One of the greatest roles to date in recent history. But he wasn't the main character. It was Jamie Foxx. It was Leonardo DiCaprio. It was the guy that was on the side of Jamie Foxx. So he wasn't the main character. Pulp Fiction, he was a co-star. He wasn't the main guy in there. The Marvel movies, he was not the sole attraction. Of course, it was the Avengers. So, not to take away from his greatness, but there's a different level because Denzel was always the star. If you put Denzel in a movie, he can't be a background character, especially after the early 90s. You weren't going to do that. Prior to the 90s, yeah, he was doing that, but after the 90s, when you call him for a movie, he's either um, he's going to be the lead guy, even if it's a co-star next to him. He's the lead guy. But you can't say that for Samuel all the time, and that's not a knock on him because when you talk about greatness, it's a nitpicking process, and you have to nitpick like that. But Samuel definitely be in the top 10 actors for me, but he just not. I can't put him anywhere above Denzel because Denzel just different. And Samuel's been in higher grossing films because he's played in those Marvel movies and he's played in these bigger budget movies. But Denzel, if you're talking about just pure art of acting and the pure skill set of acting, it's got to be Denzel. The role that he played in Malcolm X, I don't think too many other people could have done that. What he done with John Q was amazing. Training Day, for him to play a villain. So he's played villains, he's played good guys, he's played in between guys, he's played uh, characters that are struggling with things. He can play any character. He could play Trump one day if he wanted to, and we would believe it, just because it's how good he is. Samuel is the same, but I think his range is not as much as Denzel's is. Well, not range, I should say, because Samuel has a lot of range in the characters that he plays, but the ability to evoke such emotion and to be such believable character, I think Denzel has that unique skill set. And my favorite movie from Samuel was Coach Carter, which he played a coach and it was based on a true story for the most part. But I think his best performance was Lakeview Terrace, which a lot of people don't know about, but it's the movie with Kerry Washington and Samuel playing the cop that's being a neighbor from hell, which I think was loosely based on a true story. But that's my favorite performance that Samuel Jackson played in. And a lot of people don't talk about that one, but I have Denzel as the best actor of all time. So of course I'm gonna be a little biased, and I can't put Samuel above him if Denzel is my top favorite actor. But I think without Denzel movies in the industry, the movie industry would be totally different. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it because he's not out in the forefront like that. But what he's done with, Macbeth and Othello and Julius Caesar and things he's done on Broadway just shows that he really cares about acting. And it's just not really about the money. It's just about the art of it all. He's truly in love with acting and Hollywood, and his contributions. Without him, it would be totally different in the movie scene. But he contributed so much, as well Samuel as well. He's iconic for his voice and the language he uses and things like that. So he's an icon as well. So, but it's just nitpicking when you're trying to debate who's the greatest between two greats. So, um, but tell me who you think is your favorite actor between the two. And as always, until next time, I'll see you next time.